So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to the Vitality Hour here on BYP TV. That stands for Broadcast Your Passion TV. And we've just gone up in the world, literally, because we've moved locations. Our studio today is based here at the Millennium Chelsea Harbour Hotel. I'm so excited to be here. I love filming near the river because it makes me kind of go into flow and it helps me to deliver the great content that I have for you today. So what's today's show about? Well, if you're a lady, you'll definitely want to stick around. But if you're a guy, we've got some great information for you too. I've got 3 guests on my show today, so it's going to be super busy. But I know that you're going to enjoy the whole programme. I'm going to start first of all today with my Jill's Gems section. Jill's Gems, Jill's Gems. So this is the part of the show where somebody sends in a question and I answer the question. And normally I kind of do that later on in the show. But the question I've been asked today is actually so relevant to what we're going to be talking about here that I thought I would cover it today. Can you explain the difference between conventional medicine, so the conventional medical approach, you know, the NHS in the UK or wherever you are in the world, whatever your conventional equivalent is of that, and more natural and complementary? What is the difference? There's obviously a difference in sort of medicines and things, but what's the essential difference? It's a really good question, because when I first started my journey, particularly with not only helping myself with my own health, but then I started to help other people because they were coming to me saying, Jill, what are you doing? We want a bit of that. I kind of fell into the trap a little bit of treating herbs and vitamins and nutrients, or nutraceuticals as we call them, a bit like I did when I was a nurse and I was handing out pharmaceuticals. So pharmaceuticals are the kind of standard medical drugs that you'll be familiar with, and nutraceuticals are essentially from food, if you like. So they're using food as medicine. I found myself kind of using then a whole range of different herbs and nutrients and phytonutrients and potions and lotions to almost go and treat that symptom that the person was bringing to me. But as my education has grown, and I've spent the last 6 years actually studying probably every day, you know, I did a degree in music and I did a nursing qualification. I've spent more time studying functional medicine than I ever have done with the 2 previous things that I did. What I've realised and come to realise with some of the people that I'm working with is actually that symptomatic and diagnostic approach is actually what's really different between the 2 branches. So, for example, allopathic medicine, which is the conventional medicine, means that if you have a disease, you have a symptom and then it's diagnosed by your GP or your specialist, whatever it is, and then they give you something to either counteract the effects of it, or to, in some senses, dampen down the symptoms, and sometimes to cure, I have to say. But the allopathic method means that essentially what you're doing is you're giving something that very often suppresses the symptoms without actually treating the underlying cause. But what we do in herbal medicine and Ayurvedic medicine, all of these kind of natural branches, complementary therapies, is instead of treating the symptom, what we really do is we build health. So I've worked in the past with Stephen Horn, who is a past president of the American Herbalist Association, or Herbalist Association as they call it over there. And he's in my book, The Heart of a Woman, How to Look After the Heart You Give to the World. His quote in there, you know, we should stop treating symptoms and instead build good health. And this is the difference between my approach now with the approach that I was taught, if you like, when I was in the conventional medical world. That's not to say that there aren't nutraceuticals, herbs, vitamins that are specifically good for various types of illness or symptoms or disease or whatever you want to say. But the basis of what we do here is to help the body by giving it really good nutrition, trying to support it through this very stressful world that you hear me talk about all the time, that we live in the 21st century, that our bodies are really not designed to live in. And what we're going to do here is we're going to counteract the stress that we have in all senses. We're going to compensate for the poor quality food that we now have, for the environmental toxins that we're all exposed to, for the amount of stress that we have within our families, within our workplace and so on. And so eating just food is no longer good enough, even if it's organic food. But it's still not enough, particularly to reverse symptoms of a disease, and it's debatable whether indeed it's enough to prevent disease in the first place. And this is why we have increasing rates of people with cancer, with heart disease, with autoimmune diseases. You know, we're doing something wrong here. You know, we have a National Health Service that treats 1 million people every 36 hours, and that's not going to get any better unless we start really understanding how we can take responsibility for our own health and look to alternate and complementary methods to support our health. And if you haven't watched the Vitality Hour before, that's what we're all about here. So if you know my story, and if you don't, you need to get my book, it's on my website, you will know that just, where are we now? 6 years ago, I was in a very poor state of mental and physical health, and ended up at my doctor's at a well woman, my 50-year-old well woman appointment that I was too busy to attend until I was 51, by the way. And I turned up and I was basically, I had all sorts of symptoms. I had infections, my blood pressure was high, my cholesterol was high, I was 2 stone overweight, I was very depressed, I was not sleeping, my hormones were completely out of whack. And my healthcare assistant, well, the nurse, she was extremely concerned about me and said, Jill, I want you to come back this afternoon and see the GP. And then she asked me this question: Jill, have you ever had any thoughts of harming yourself? And it was just such a shock to my system, because I thought, well, you know, this is ridiculous. I'm coping with everything. I've got my children and my husband and my elderly father and my job and all the things that I do, you know. I'm perfectly fine. In fact, I'm practically Superwoman. Why? How dare you ask me that question? But of course, what she was seeing in front of her was a kind of a pale version of the woman that she'd known for at least probably 15, 20 years. The rub of it was that at 51, my mother was suffering from all of those things too. The only difference between her and me was that I didn't have any thoughts, any suicidal thoughts, but my mother did. She actually died at 56 when I was just 28 and 30 weeks pregnant with my first child. And so that was when my journey started into looking at other ways. I was offered drugs, I was offered statins and blood pressure tablets and antibiotics and antidepressants, antacids. I was offered stuff to help me sleep. And because I'm a nurse, I didn't want to do any of that, because I know that every drug that you take has side effects. I did accept some counselling, however, but then I decided I needed to go on a quest to really understand the alternate and complementary world. Throughout all of that time, my health has completely changed. Now at 57, I'm, you know, fabulous, and I don't have the health problems that I certainly did 6 years ago. However, what I was still suffering with were menopausal symptoms or perimenopausal symptoms. In that office, when I was 51, it had got so bad, and I had been suffering for many years. I was having night sweats and flushes every half an hour through the night, which means that basically I was completely sleep deprived, and I had been for several years. I was also having flushes during the day, and if you've ever had a flush yourself, or you know anybody, these can be extremely debilitating, and meant that because I was sleep deprived, it was difficult for me to maintain a healthy body and mind, actually. And I was very fortunate at the time to be introduced to a gentleman who floated a packet of nutraceuticals in front of me, and he said, well, Jill, I know that you suffer with this, take these because these will help you. And he said in the majority of cases they just completely take the symptoms away. And I can't, you know when somebody comes and says something to you, you kind of go, yeah, I've heard that before. And he said, no, really. He said, in fact, you can have them, He said, because I want you to trial them with what you do. He said, I want you to take them for 2 or 3 months. He said, within 6 to 12 weeks, he said, I guarantee that your life will be completely different. I hadn't really heard of the application of this particular herb used, or I don't know whether it's a herb, actually it's a plant, used for the treatment of my perimenopausal symptoms before. And so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to introduce you to the wonderful, and it's a bit of a best kept secret, the wonderful properties of hops. So hops, that you make beer out of. Now, I understood about hops because I actually do like drinking beer, and I'd heard a little bit about hops, you know, beer shampoo, and I'd had hops and valerian to try and make me sleep. I knew a little bit about hops, but I really didn't understand the science that has been done about hops for the treatment of perimenopausal symptoms. So I'm going to introduce you to the very gentleman that introduced me, thankfully, to the hops product that I still take, and I don't go anywhere without it. It's always in my bag, and there's always an email that goes out, please send me more, so that I'm stocked up, because I don't go anywhere without it. But before I introduce him, I'm going to bring 2 lovely ladies on who are going to give you their very powerful stories about how hops specifically have helped them. So we have Rosemary and Maureen. Thank you so much for agreeing to come into the studio today. It's very nice of you. We've just got a little bit of short time together, so I really want to kind of give our viewers as much information as we can in our short time about your own experiences, which I think, talking to you, are fairly similar to mine, aren't they? So Rosemary, perhaps we could come to you first, because you told me that actually you were the first person to experience hops that I think were recommended by a therapist.
My friend, yes. I had horrible heart palpitations, which were really, made you feel really bad. Lots and lots of hot flushes during the night, many more at night, a few during the day, but mostly at night.
Yeah.
One of the embarrassing things was I would walk from one room to another to go and get something and then forget why I'd gone into the room to get it.
Right.
And then
I know a lot of our viewers are going, yeah, but I do that. But actually that is a very usual perimenopausal symptom. And can I ask you how old you were when these symptoms were going on?
Late 40s.
Late 40s. So it was unusual for you to be doing that at that stage.
I'd had a hysterectomy, so I think it had brought it on very suddenly.
Yeah, so even though you retained your ovaries, because I had a hysterectomy too, actually it kind of kicks you into
instant horrible
instant menopause. So was there anything else that was happening for you?
Yes, I played bridge, and I belonged to several bridge clubs.
Right.
And I've won trophies, and I know the people really well, and I would walk into the room and I'd say hi and name them, and it would be the wrong name. I mean, how embarrassing is
really
that?
Is embarrassing.
And yet I knew their name.
You were fortunate to be introduced to this hops product. And I actually have it, I have one of the sachets here. This is very familiar to you, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And if you're like me, and I know you both are like me, I never go anywhere without it. And there's another product we're going to talk about a little bit in a minute too. So this product is just basically sort of concentrated hops, isn't it? It comes in a little capsule, little sachet like this. So how far into your menopausal symptoms did you discover this, and what happened when you started taking it?
Quite early on, and there's been cancer in my family, both on the male and the female side, so I'm quite anti taking traditional drugs because of the side effects.
Do you mean HRT, hormone replacement?
Absolutely.
Okay.
If anything I could avoid taking HRT, I would.
Right.
I won't take antibiotics. So I'm very much into herbal medicines without side effects.
And had you tried any other kind of menopausal type tablets or anything?
No, because the only thing the GPs recommend to you is HRT.
Yeah.
And I really didn't want to take anything synthetic. So when this was recommended it to me, I phoned up and got a packet of this.
Yeah.
And I started taking 2 a day.
Yeah.
Within 14 days, it gave me back my life.
Wow.
It was unbelievable.
Wow, just 14 days?
Yes.
That's incredible.
It was just amazing.
And so How many? Can I ask you how many years ago that was?
14.
14 years ago?
Yes.
Okay. And you're still taking your
I only
magic
take
pill?
one a day now.
Right.
But in intense stress periods,
Yeah.
I don't get the heart palpitations ever. I don't get the memory loss ever, or the name blindness. But sometimes I get a hot flush at night.
Yes.
And then I know, and then I just take 2 a day.
Okay,
And after
for a
2
little
or
while.
3 days, I go back to 1 a day to maintain. And then I have an equilibrium, and it's great.
That's marvellous, isn't it? And I can see how happy you are because your eyes
When
are
I hear
shining.
people talking about menopause and hot flushes, I just say to them, oh, you've got to take Menacor because it's just natural and it's hops.
Yeah.
And I recommend it to my friends because
Do you?
I'm just
Yes,
such
I
a
do,
great
yeah.
advocate.
Yeah. And in fact, that was how it happened because you recommended it to Maureen, your lovely
I
sister
did,
here.
yes.
So what happened to you, Maureen? What manifested for you?
Well, my story isn't quite as dramatic as my sister's, but I had the hot flushes at night, and the night sweats, and hot flushes during the day, and particularly stressful situations would bring them on.
Yeah.
And yes, I would go red, and yeah, you know, and you'd kind of get something, and you'd be sitting in the
fanning.
car, and you'd be fanning yourself, and it was embarrassing, you know. And then you'd wind the window down, and you think everybody would be aware. I mean,
Yeah.
probably they weren't, but
Yeah.
you know that you were going through a hot flush. And I wouldn't consider doing something that had side effects, and so I wouldn't consider HRT or anything. And I read the ingredients and I saw that it was all natural, and I thought, well, I've got nothing to lose by trying it. After 6 to 8 weeks, then the hot flushes started to diminish, and then I went over on to taking just 1 a day, until now, several years later. I'm just on 1 a day.
And it's interesting because your story is fairly similar to mine in that I know that you're really into nutrition, you're into really looking after yourself in terms of your diet. But actually, like me, you were really looking after yourself.
Yes.
So it's not all just about food, clearly, but you're also very conscious, and I know that you do talks now, don't you? And we're going to bring you back into the studio to talk about this because it's fascinating.
It's the balance, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's keeping the balance. It's not just having a focus on one thing. It's trying to keep the balance of your nutrition, your lifestyle, keeping
Exercise,
stress. Yes,
stress.
exercise, vitamin D from the sun, getting outside. You know, and as you said earlier, I think in the programme, sometimes, you know, there are specific areas where we need a little extra help. And for Rosemary and for me and you,
this little pill,
that little
has changed
extra
my
help,
life as
yes,
well.
was in the form of something that had benefits without side effects.
Yes.
You have got absolutely nothing to lose, and you have got everything to gain
By trying
these
it. Magic little
It gave me back my life. It's £25 for a box of 60.
Right, and how long does that
And
last you then?
That lasts me 2 months.
Oh, well,
So if you break it down, it's less than £3 a week.
yeah.
It would be wonderful if it could be made available or even advertised through the normal national health system, just to make people aware that there are healthy, natural alternatives.
Maybe through our collaboration as women and through, programs
Word
like
of mouth.
this and word of mouth and
I think word of
doing
mouth, friendship, recommending
Yeah.
it to people, which we do.
yes.
I think that is important.
Listen, thank you so much, ladies.
Oh, you're very
Thank you so
welcome.
much for coming in today. I've really enjoyed our chat. I enjoyed our chat even before we chatted. It would not be right if I didn't invite the man himself who introduced me to this wonderful product onto the show, who's going to come and talk to us a little bit more, not only about hops in terms of the menopause, but actually the general benefits you can get by taking hops. So this is my special guest today, Robert McLaughlin. Robert, thank you for coming.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're very welcome. I know that you've had a significant impact on at least three women in the world with introducing us to hops. But what we need to be able to do is to understand really what the journey is that got me to this place effectively, and how you discovered hops and what you know about them. What was it that led you to hops in the first place?
My background is developing new products, which is about marketing, finding them, finding what people need. I'm a great believer, why would you sell rubbish? So I researched them very carefully. Now, the peculiar thing is I didn't discover it for the menopause. I went to an exhibition where I had a distributor in Belgium, and in front of it he had these women selling tablets for the bust.
For the bust?
For the bust, for improving the bust. And I thought, what on earth is this about? I said to him, look, my product's at the back, there at the front. He said, yes, but it's selling well. So he said, well, you're in luck, the inventor, the herbalist, is here at the show.
And he's Dutch, is that right?
Dutch, yeah. Well, before I spoke to him, I spoke to some of the women who were lining up to buy it, and they were lining up to buy it. 60% of the people I spoke to were buying their second box. Now that says, hang on, there's something there. And my first question is, why haven't they bought you out?
Yeah.
Why haven't they taken you over?
If this is so successful.
Yeah. What I found was very clever herbalist, not very good at telling people about his product.
Ah, okay, so it's a bit of a secret.
But he was having great success. He explained to me that hops are the best carrier of a particular, what's commonly called phytoestrogen, called 8-prenylglycine. Now this is found in stinging nettle, lots of plants. Nature's idea was that we would be inhaling these spring, summer. That would make women ready for conception, and all our festivals in around the end of summer are about conception, aren't they? They're traditional old festivals. We've screwed that up because we chopped down the trees, so we're not inhaling pollens like we did. We should live in forests. What we know is that this 8-prenylglycine is particularly effective on female glandular tissue, on its development. We know that the hormone receptor it's a perfect key. It actually, and there's a lot of studies, scientific studies that prove this, it also blocks the lock. It stops xenoestrogens getting in. And xenoestrogens are in fertilizers, they're in our water a lot now because of women taking the pill. And
yes, and we
which is why a lot of men are not successful in helping the whole process of conception because they've too much xenoestrogen in their body.
Yeah.
So he explained this. I knew about the benefit of hops from my grandfather for animals. I didn't know about people. So then I had to research it. I went to just outside Amsterdam, a very sophisticated company who manufactured for the contractor.
So just remind me, when was this?
This was 1997.
1997, okay.
The bust tablet appeals to young girls particularly.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of young girls probably having seen Lorraine Kelly, seen our advertising. We just used to do a very simple ad, fuller and firmer, there is a natural way. And some people will remember it. We used to run it in OK magazine, things like that. These young girls' mums and aunties would have said, you must be stupid. How can this work? It's a tablet. Look, that little tablet doesn't look anything. 2 months later,
the mums, don't tell me, the mums and the...
Absolutely. Now, what we then got was the mums and aunties saying, I'm really, for our call centre, the messages they gave, now having had it and bought it, they said, I'm over the moon with my bust, you know, it's not sagging like it was, it's fuller, it's firmer, it's what your ad said, but I'm really over the moon that my hot flushes have gone. There's one woman who's a teacher, she said, it's like I used to be. So if you take the these women who phoned in to say, I'm so pleased that my hot flushes have gone, I got on to the herbalist. I said, look, this is a different issue. They're not interested in the bust, they're interested in the menopause. We need to refine the product and make a product that is particularly for the menopause. In the menopause tablets, they also add in what are called isoflavones. That appears to have a kind of progesterone effect. You know, I've heard you talk about the balance of the two. Now, this is a natural progesterone. It's not some synthetic. As with the estrogenic effect, this is natural phytoestrogen. It's not a xenoestrogen. It's its lack of estrogenic activity that is the biggest problem for women in later life. If you can repair that, you're resolving, as you said, this is about nutraceuticals that help your health. But if somebody looks on the internet and Googles hops for health, beer and health, because beer contains these things, they will learn things that scientists are claiming, and I can't say have proven, about prostate problems through to breast, uterine, cervical.
And I've also been reading myself that, you know, it was proven that when tuberculosis was rife, that the guys that worked in the beer brewing beer, their incidence of tuberculosis was 30% less. I've been reading that it's a natural anti-inflammatory, so for people with autoimmune and rheumatoid arthritis, that it's an antiviral. You know, the properties of hops, we're not just talking about, you know, this is designed for women. You know, there are obvious benefits for men too, aren't there?
If one reason I knew this product was going to be good for the bust improvement is that I read a study which was on gynecomastia. Now,
Yes.
you know what that is, but for anybody else, that's what we call man boobs, which people think are fat. It's because they're too fat. Now, they usually are too fat as well, because to drink enough beer to develop a bust, you have to drink a lot.
Yes.
In fact, King's College, a study there, showed, and this was paid for by the brewing industry, showed that you had to drink 10 pints a day.
Right.
But the reality is it caused glandular tissue to develop.
Yeah, in the best.
And that is 8-prenylglycerin, what you get from hops. There's nothing else in the beer that can magically do it. In fact, if anything, the other things in beer counteract it, because of course you're consuming alcohol.
Hops traditionally were used because it stopped stuff going off.
It's because it's a natural antiseptic.
Antiseptic,
It's a beautiful thing that if you brew beer, you can't poison anyone.
Yeah.
The hops keep it straight.
And before we finish, because we're
I know.
slightly running out of time, is that the other thing that we mentioned, and we've had these on the table as well. These are actually vitamin D3 tablets. So vitamin
These are exactly what you said, that you get something and then you find there's another component.
Yeah.
And what the herbalist has discovered is these little white tablets
which you put under your tongue and
provide
melt.
a balance of progesterone, a natural progesterone activity, vitamin B and vitamin D3, which the government has now said, because people wear sunblocks, they're getting no sunlight even in summer, we've all got deficiency. We have it in
particularly
winter.
if you've got darker skin, of course.
So the balance of these together
and
makes a fabulous product.
I take those.
There's one other element about it, and that is that this is the new technology of melting tablets.
Yeah.
If you swallow many tablets, you've no idea how much you had because your stomach acids interfere.
Absolutely.
So this you melt under your tongue, lovely. I take one a day, and I always feel like another because they're really, they're really nice.
Really nice. And just to say as well that, you know, these are not like a tablet, an ordinary medicine tablet, in that you can crush them, you can put them in a pestle and mortar, add them to your food.
Take a digestive biscuit. The ingredients are very similar, except there's hops as well.
Yeah.
And this is a tiny bit, so eat less digestive biscuit.
and
it has no effect.
have
In
one
fact,
of
if
these
anything, we
instead.
get weight balancing. I mean, these are reports from customers, so we don't claim them, but we have customers saying, I've lost weight.
Yeah.
Customers who are too thin, I've gained weight. And we know why it is. It's protection and repair of the lining of the stomach.
Yes. So that's a whole other program.
That's another story,
That's a
another
whole
day.
other program. So I think one of the things that we need to talk about, I think we need to continue this conversation because we've been very focused here on menopause today, but we could have a whole other show about all the other benefits and how they work. If you want to learn more about these, then actually just go to my website, jillbarham.com, and I will, there's some more information on there. How can they get these natural push-up?
Well, if they go to your website, you can direct
can I
them
direct
to
them
me.
as well?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
that
to my
would be
company.
quite good to have one.
I think the way I would love to see this introduced, the word needs to be spread. I would love to see people, viewers of this, who'd like to do a party plan, and in their area contact you about it and contact us. It is the perfect party. How many women are really worried about going into the menopause?
Yeah, I mean, I do lots of talks about women's hormonal health, and actually, apart from the V3 system that I use, this is one of the products that I do recommend. And the other thing is that I'm about to conduct an independent study, because although this is good for me, and I've met two wonderful ladies here as well, I think if we're really going to make a difference, we need to do a little bit more kind of proof work. So we're looking for companies. So if you work for a company, and particularly if you work for a company that has lots of women working for it, please get in touch with me, Dr. Jill at byptv.live. Send me an email, and Robert's going to supply me with some of these and some placebos so that we can do a test. So if you're interested in either the product or taking part in the trial, or you've got a company that is interested, then please get in contact with me, because this has definitely changed my life, saved some lives, and we really need to be making sure that more people know about it. Thank you very much, Robert, for coming in.
Very welcome.
Today.
I'm very grateful to come. Thank you.
And we'll have you back and talk around all sorts of the other things that we didn't get time to talk to today.
That would be lovely.
Okay.
Thank you again.
Goodbye.